Alright, so we are back after a short break. We were talking about the sweetness of faith and the fact that the believer who love Allah Almighty, who love the Prophet ﷺ, and this love for Allah and the Prophet ﷺ is above all other kinds of love. So he is the one who has tasted the pleasure and sweetness of faith. Now here we should also remember that hadith and saying of the Prophet ﷺ that none of you can be a true believer unless he loves me more than his his children and all other people, his wealth and all other things that he has in this world. So love for the Prophet ﷺ, this completes the faith of a believer. And here we should also remember another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that none of you can be a true believer unless he wishes for his brother who is also a believer what he wishes for himself. Now we learn here that whatever good, whatever benefit we wish for our own selves, we should also wish for other believers, for other people, right? For example, if there is a matter of business, if there is a matter of a social dealings, and any other sort of matter, if it is there, and we are looking for something good, some benefit, so we should have the same feelings for other believers. That is the requirement of faith. And when we look at the ibadah of Hajj, we should also remember the dimensions of human personality that we discussed in the previous episodes. We have different dimensions of human personality. One of the dimensions of human personality is what we call physical dimension, and then we have rational dimension, and we have moral dimension, aesthetic dimension, and then we have a spiritual dimension. So whenever we as a believer, we perform and offer different ibadat, the different dimensions of human personality and their requirements are fulfilled there. For example, if you look at Hajj and then try to build a connection with spiritual dimension, then yes, it is there. We are performing this great ibadah, Hajj, and we are performing different rites and rituals. We are spending days in Makkah. We are moving to and fro. We are doing all this. We are doing all these acts. Why? For seeking the pleasure of Allah Almighty. For love of Allah Almighty and showing our love for the Prophet Sallallahu Ta'ala Alaihi Wasallam. That is why the reward is great in Akhirah for the people who perform this ibadah of Hajj with the sole intention, with the sole purpose of pleasing Allah Almighty, seeking reward from Allah Almighty, then they will be having a great reward in the Akhirah. And the one, who performs Hajj and his Hajj is accepted, in the sight of Allah Almighty, then he will be like a person who is newly born, and right, who has not done any sins, any bad deeds. So this is the reward, right? So human personality and its dimensions, their requirements are fulfilled when we perform different acts of worship. Now here we also learn that when a believer, when a Muslim, when a mu'min, he obeys the commandments of Allah Almighty, then he attains different benefits and different blessings in this world also. His life, he has happiness in his life, and he has satisfaction in this life. For example, if any problem he encounters, any sort of problem, he is having faith in Allah Almighty, so he is not afraid of problems. He is not afraid of different issues and matters in this world. Why? Because he is focusing on the hereafter. And that is the reason we say again and again that we as believers must not commit, we as believers must never do any action that can, compromise our hereafter. For example, if you are in a situation that you can gain some benefit and some profit, in this world, but the way is not, is not lawful in Sharia, as per the rulings of Sharia, as per the rulings of Islamic law. So you must avoid that action. This losing this, a little gain in this world will help you gain lots of rewards, in the hereafter. And that also shows your belief, that you believe in Allah Almighty. You are ready to sacrifice anything in this world, whatever have in this world, just for Allah Almighty, just for the love of Allah Almighty. And whenever you perform any ibadah, whether it is Hajj, whether it is Qurbani, that needs sacrifice on different ends. For example, you will have to sacrifice your time, you will have to sacrifice your energy, you will have to sacrifice many other things. And this is the requirement and this is the demand of your faith. So faith does not, mean that you will be sitting with just, doing nothing and having the pleasures of this life. No, this faith demands you to qualify different tests that come from Allah Almighty. For example, you might be in a situation you will have to lose something just to seek the pleasure of Allah Almighty, so you will have to lose it. But that apparent loss in this world will help you gain reward in the hereafter. And Jannah is for those believers who believe in Allah Almighty and also perform good deeds. They do what Allah Almighty wants them to do. So our actions, our behavior, our core values, all these things show that we have faith in Allah Almighty. So the entire ibadah of Hajj as well as Qurbani give you the message of sacrifice. It requires you to be ready for sacrificing anything, if it comes if the matter comes, when the situation demands you to make sacrifice for the will of Allah Almighty. And that is also the requirement of the surrender that the word Islam demands. As I said earlier, Islam means surrender. Surrender to the will of Allah Almighty. Surrender to the will of Allah Almighty, and this shows your love for Allah Almighty, your love for the Prophet Sallallahu Ta'ala Alaihi Wasallam. So here we end our talk and this episode. Inshallah, we'll see you again in the next episode. So stay tuned to Iqra TV. See you again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.